Arizona, the land of red canyons, bright sunshine, and wide open skies. But behind this beautiful picture is a serious problem that we can no longer ignore. In 2025, Arizona saw more than 14,000 people living without a home. This is one of the fastest growing homeless numbers in the whole country. From Phoenix to Tucson, places that used to be full of visitors now have sidewalks crowded with tents. Families are sleeping in their cars. Some neighborhoods are so overwhelmed that even emergency workers are careful when they go there. This is not just about bad luck or people making wrong choices. It is a system that is breaking. Housing prices going up too high, help from the government not enough, and hard times hitting many people all at once. Thousands of people are quietly falling through the cracks in a state many still believe is full of chances and hope. Today's video will look past the pretty desert sunsets to show the real, hard life many people in Arizona live every day. This is not a warning anymore. It's a question we all need to ask ourselves. How close are we to losing the place we call home? As usual, this is not a pessimistic warning, but a perspective reflected from multiple sources to help the community understand better and prepare proactively. Are you ready to explore the dark side in the first state? Let's get started right now. To understand the depth of Arizona's crisis, we must begin with its most visible symptom, homelessness.
It's dangerous out here, man. You don't want to be out here in this part right here. Nobody has money. It's going to end up being a lot of crime.
Across Phoenix, Tucson, and smaller towns like Flagstaff or Yuma, tents now line the sidewalks, canal banks, and freeway underpasses. Public parks once filled with joggers and families now share space with makeshift shelters. According to the Arizona Department of Economic Security, over 14,000 people were recorded as experiencing homelessness in early 2025, the highest number in Arizona's history. But this number only scratches the surface. It doesn't include the invisible homeless, families living in cars, teens couch surfing with friends, or seniors in motels they can barely afford. And it's not just a city problem anymore. Suburbs like Mesa and rural counties across northern Arizona are also seeing increases. The image is spreading, and it's not going away on its own. Arizona's population is growing fast, but housing hasn't kept up. Rising rents, limited affordable units, and stagnant wages are pushing people off the edge. According to Zillow, Phoenix rents rose over 40% between 2020 and 2023, with one-bedroom apartments now averaging over $1,500 per month. For low-income workers, this means choosing between food, gas, or a roof. But this isn't just about economics. Aging out of foster care or recovering from personal loss often intersect with housing instability. And the support systems? They are often overwhelmed or missing entirely. Emergency shelters are frequently at capacity, with waiting lists months long. Transitional housing options are limited. Case managers, when available, are stretched thin. A homeless person said, "They told me I could get on the list for a bed, but it might take 2 months. I don't have 2 months out here. I barely have 2 nights." What's especially concerning is how the crisis is spreading geographically. Remote counties in Arizona's north and southeast, where services are scarce, are now reporting growing homeless populations. Some individuals travel hours just to reach a food bank or cooling center. In a state known for its heat, summer itself becomes a life-threatening factor. With temperatures regularly exceeding 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius, access to shade and water can mean the difference between surviving the day or not. When the security of housing disappears, people don't just lose a roof, they lose their options. In Arizona, particularly in areas like downtown Phoenix, parts of Tucson, and along highways that stretch through Mesa and Glendale, survival sometimes takes painful forms. Beneath the surface of warm sun and wide desert roads lies another truth. Growing numbers of individuals, mostly women and increasingly young people, are forced to exchange their safety for shelter, food, or even just a quiet night without trouble.
You have to be strong in order to survive out here. These streets, if you're not a strong-minded person, it's gonna eat you alive.
This is not the glamorous narrative that's portrayed on screens. It's vulnerability. It's a critical calculation made by people who never expected to be in that situation. And it's important to ask, if we were out there with no money, no support, and no place to sleep, what choice would we make? Arizona's geography, like Ohio's, plays a hidden role. With major interstates like I-10 and I-17 connecting Phoenix to neighboring states, the movement of people and of underground networks becomes difficult to trace. Officials and advocacy groups have voiced concern over the increasing activity of coordinated exploitation rings that target vulnerable populations, especially those aging out of foster care, women leaving an unsafe home, or runaway youth. These individuals are often approached with offers of safety, food, or a job, only to find themselves in deeper, more dangerous arrangements they can't easily escape. Arizona ranked in the top 10 states for reported cases of trafficking in 2024, according to Polaris Project data. Many of these situations start with homelessness, personal struggles, or financial hardship, and often go unnoticed. Even when someone escapes these cycles, the road to recovery is steep. Legal systems vary from county to county. In Maricopa, some initiatives aim to divert vulnerable people from jail into support programs. But resources are limited, and success depends heavily on capacity and training. In other regions, arrest and citation remain the default. And the problem? You can't punish someone into healing. Even more challenging, the emotional impact is often unseen but remains. Long after leaving the streets, many still feel alone, uncertain, and carry the weight of being misunderstood. This stigma, this silent rejection, pushes many right back into danger. Recovery is not just a matter of shelter. It's about being believed. It's about having someone say, "You still matter." This is a turning point for us to ask something bigger. How many people have we walked past, not realizing they were surviving the unthinkable? How many of us would survive in the same conditions? Safety and community well-being are growing concerns in Arizona, especially in areas where homelessness has surged. In 2023, the Arizona Department of Public Safety recorded over 27,000 reported incidents involving affect negatively, including reports of rising tensions, disturbances, and public safety concerns in both urban and suburban communities. Many of these situations unfold near neighborhoods where housing insecurity has become more visible. Take Central Phoenix as an example. As the number of people living on the streets has risen, so too have reports from residents who no longer feel safe walking alone after dark. While the cause of this fear isn't always rooted in direct harm, the breakdown of community trust is deeply felt. When public spaces, once used for family walks or evening gatherings, become filled with tension and unpredictability, the emotional climate of the city changes. A mother in Tempe recently shared, "It's not about being scared of people. It's about not knowing what anyone is going through. One wrong look, one bad moment, and it can spiral. That's what makes you anxious now." This emotional unease isn't just anecdotal, it's supported by studies. A 2024 report by the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission found that communities with rising unsheltered populations reported up to 40% more public disturbance calls than areas with stable housing. But here's something important to note. Most unhoused individuals are not perpetrators of crime. In fact, they are often the most vulnerable, frequently the ones facing challenges and feeling unsafe. Living without stable shelter dramatically increases someone's exposure to unsafe situations, especially at night, when shelters are full and streets become the only option. The emotional and physical challenges of living in these conditions, along with limited access to supportive care, can sometimes lead to tense situations in public spaces. When resources are limited, both individuals and law enforcement may struggle to resolve these moments peacefully. To address the issue, cities like Tucson and Mesa have launched community engagement programs that pair emotional support providers with local police. These co-response teams aim to respond with care instead of confrontation, especially when someone experiencing homelessness is in crisis. There's still a long way to go, but what's clear is this: safety is not just the absence of danger, it's the presence of dignity, connection, and proactive care. When we view public safety as a shared responsibility, we start creating environments where everyone, housed or unhoused, can feel seen, respected, and secure. Because at the heart of every community is the simple desire to feel safe, and to know someone will show up when it matters most. In Arizona, from Phoenix's underpasses to quiet corners of Prescott, a silent crisis is unfolding. It's not always easy to see at first glance, but its impact is undeniable. According to recent reports from state health agencies, over 2,000 lives were lost in Arizona in 2024 due to complications tied to dangerous chemical use, marking one of the highest annual figures to date. This isn't just about numbers. It's about the empty chairs at dinner tables. It's about friends who stopped calling. It's about loved ones who slowly disappeared. Not because they wanted to, but because they didn't know how to ask for help. Arizona's challenges with dependency have grown rapidly in recent years, fueled by the spread of synthetic mixers, often unpredictable and far stronger than users realize. These substances find their way into streets, shelters, and even small towns that once felt untouched by such issues. And sadly, those already living in unstable conditions, including those without permanent housing, are often hit the hardest. When someone is already struggling to find a meal or a safe place to sleep, these substances can feel like the only escape. This is not about blame. It's about facing what's happening with compassion, not judgment. Arizona has made efforts to provide support, but the need is overwhelming. Recovery centers in cities like Mesa and Flagstaff are at capacity, with wait times stretching into weeks or months. In rural areas, access is even more limited, sometimes requiring hours of travel just to speak with a counselor or begin a program. Worse, new variations of these chemicals keep evolving, making it harder for health workers to respond in time. Many community clinics lack the equipment to detect what's being used, which delays the right kind of help. A recovery coordinator from southern Arizona put it simply: by the time we understand what someone took, we're already behind, and they might already be gone. The impact doesn't stop with the individual. Entire families feel the ripple. Children placed into temporary care, teachers facing emotional breakdowns in classrooms, parents working multiple jobs while trying to pull a loved one out of a dangerous cycle. This is not just about personal choice. It's about systems failing to respond fast enough. The growing complexity of Arizona's housing and public health challenges is testing the limits of its core institutions. From behavioral care to education and basic housing assistance, many essential services are operating under sustained strain. In the behavioral health sector, entire counties across Arizona currently report having no practicing psychiatrist. Community health centers, where they exist, often have long waiting lists or reduced hours due to funding constraints. In the absence of available specialists, police departments are frequently called upon to manage health-related crises, though most officers receive only limited training in de-escalation or behavioral response. As a result, individuals facing health challenges may end up in holding facilities rather than care environments. Education systems in Arizona mirror these difficulties. In districts where housing instability is more common, chronic absenteeism rates can exceed 25%, making consistent learning difficult for many students. Teachers report rising classroom disruptions linked to out-of-school stressors, yet support resources, such as school counselors or social workers, are few. In some schools, a single counselor may serve several hundred students, leaving little room for regular follow-up or early intervention. The state's public assistance programs, from food support to housing vouchers, are also grappling with overload. Case managers in urban counties report managing upwards of 200 clients each, complicating the follow-through needed to connect families with services. Application processes can be lengthy, with digital systems not always accessible to older adults or those without reliable internet. While there are efforts to simplify procedures, delays remain common. For many, the process becomes discouraging, and some give up before receiving help. Private service providers have stepped in to fill some gaps, especially in housing or job placement, but outcomes vary. Without coordinated oversight, service fragmentation can leave individuals navigating a confusing network of referrals. Someone experiencing multiple challenges, such as job loss, housing insecurity, and limited mobility, may find themselves referred to several agencies, each with its own criteria and timeline. For older residents, particularly those on fixed incomes, these challenges can be more pronounced. A retiree facing a rent increase or unexpected medical bill may not know where to turn. In this context, even temporary disruptions, like losing access to transportation or a lapse in benefits, can become turning points. The systems designed to offer support are present, but their accessibility and capacity remain a growing concern. Tackling these interlinked challenges would require long-term planning and cross-agency cooperation. However, Arizona's response has often leaned toward short-term containment rather than structural reform. Legislation aimed at expanding affordable housing, increasing behavioral health funding, or bolstering school support staff has been introduced in recent years, but progress has been inconsistent. State budgets have favored broad economic development incentives, while allocations to human services have seen only modest growth. In 2023, for example, less than 2% of Arizona's general fund was dedicated to housing programs, despite growing demand in cities like Phoenix, Tucson, and Mesa. Local governments, in an effort to manage visible street encampments, have adopted a mix of ordinances and enforcement actions. These policies are often intended to keep public spaces accessible and organized, yet they may result in disbanding communities without offering stable alternatives. Temporary shelters, where available, frequently operate at or near full capacity. Outreach programs, though staffed by dedicated workers, face resource limitations that hinder their long-term effectiveness. Public engagement on these issues varies widely. In suburban areas or retirement communities, the realities of homelessness and underfunded services may feel distant. News coverage tends to spotlight isolated incidents rather than the slower-moving structural issues beneath them. As a result, there's often a gap between perception and policy urgency. Without sustained public dialogue or visibility, momentum for systemic change is difficult to build. For those who have spent decades working, raising families, and contributing to their communities, the current climate may feel unfamiliar. Institutions that once offered a safety net seem harder to navigate. And with political dialogue often focused on broader economic trends, local-level needs, such as housing security for older adults or school support services, can be overshadowed. In this environment, it is not unusual for residents to feel disconnected from policy decisions that impact their daily lives. Voter turnout in off-cycle elections is low, and civic participation declines when constituents perceive that little changes. Yet as these systems continue to be stretched, their stability and the well-being of those who rely on them may depend on greater engagement from every level of society. Across Arizona's sprawling deserts, dense metro areas, and small border towns, community-led efforts are offering a quieter but steady counterbalance to the pressures weighing down formal institutions. While public systems continue to grapple with resource constraints, local residents, volunteers, and small organizations are stepping in, not with sweeping reform, but with consistency, creativity, and care. In Phoenix, Tucson, and even in rural counties like Cochise or Navajo, neighborhood-based groups are responding to needs that often go unmet by larger programs. Mobile outreach teams, many run by non-profits or coalitions of former service recipients, provide basic supplies, bottled water during extreme heat alerts, hygiene kits, and essential transportation. Some teams focus on housing navigation, helping unsheltered residents complete documentation for waitlists and connect with transitional programs. Faith-based groups are playing a central role as well. Churches across Maricopa County have repurposed fellowship halls into temporary cooling centers and overnight shelters during the summer months, where temperatures can reach well over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Volunteers, often retirees or longtime community members, prepare hot meals, offer basic health checks, and simply provide a quiet space to rest. For some, this support is the first positive human interaction they've had in weeks. Equally notable are the peer-led models emerging in the state. In cities like Mesa and Flagstaff, sober living homes managed by people in long-term recovery offer not only structure, but empathy rooted in experience. These environments rely less on formal intervention and more on mutual accountability. One resident recently shared how a small recovery home felt more like family than any place I've ever lived. Stories like these may not make headlines, but they speak volumes about the emotional scaffolding these grassroots models provide. Education and creativity are also becoming tools for healing. At the Burton Barr Central Library in Phoenix, staff host weekly workshops focused on digital literacy, resume building, and access to public benefits. Education and creativity are also becoming tools for healing. At the Burton Barr Central Library in Phoenix, staff host weekly workshops focused on digital literacy, resume building, and access to public benefits. These sessions are tailored especially for older adults or those re-entering the workforce. Further south, in Pima County, community gardens are reclaiming vacant land, offering not only food but also purpose and community pride. Elders share agricultural knowledge with younger volunteers, creating intergenerational bonds around something as simple but vital as a shared harvest. Art, too, has become a powerful voice in Renewal. Murals in downtown Tucson, often created in collaboration with local youth, tell stories of displacement, survival, and shared heritage. These visual markers transform neglected spaces into symbols of resilience and belonging. In many ways, they function as quiet declarations that every neighborhood, no matter its struggles, has a story worth preserving. These grassroots movements are not without challenges. Funding is inconsistent, burnout is common, and the needs often far outpace what volunteers can provide. Yet their strength lies in their proximity to the problem and in the trust they've built with those they serve. They aren't waiting for permission or large-scale solutions. They are working with what they have, where they are. And perhaps that's what makes these efforts so enduring. They're not charity, they're community. Not temporary fixes, but long-term investments in dignity and shared responsibility. As Arizona continues to face difficult questions about how it supports its most vulnerable residents, one can't help but wonder, what might change if these local efforts received not just applause, but real, sustained support? Arizona stands at a pivotal moment. The challenges we see, unstable housing, strained public health, and scattered services, aren't isolated. They raise larger questions about how we value care, stability, and community. But decline isn't inevitable. Across the state, people are stepping up, quietly, consistently, and often with limited resources. Real change will take more than quick fixes. It calls for steady investment, thoughtful policy, and a rebuilding of trust. Progress won't be instant, but it starts with honest questions, clear eyes, and the choice to stay engaged. Because Arizona's future, like any community's, depends on those who care enough to keep showing up. Thank you for watching. If this topic has raised questions for you, or if you've seen similar dynamics in your own community, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and join the conversation. And if you believe in thoughtful, honest storytelling about the issues that shape real lives, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's more to explore, and we hope you'll be part of it. Please note, the information in the video is compiled from public and reliable sources, aimed at analysis and providing a reference perspective. The video is not intended to incite, criticize individuals, or provide financial legal advice. Viewers should consider additional information before making a decision.